What's up, good people? We are going to do this again. Letting you all come in. Okay, we are back. I'm not doing a DJ gig.
Hey, there you are.
Hey, how you doing? How
Hey,
are you?
how's it
All right.
going here?
Oh,
How
it's
are
going
you?
great. Oh, I'm going great. I'm doing well. I'm currently in the my hair room at 30 Rock.
Oh, good. All right. Yeah.
You would think that in a building of communication, which is like the number one cable company and a network, that they would at least have good working Wi-Fi in the building.
In New
But
York City.
yeah, they don't have that at all. All right, so let me explain to my followers who you are and our relationship. So basically, this gentleman right here, his name is Mark Hyman. You look great, man. Hawaii,
Thanks. I'm in Hawaii.
Hawaii's Hawaii. Well,
Everything is good in Hawaii.
if I didn't have 28 jobs, I'd be right there with you in step. Um, so basically, Dr. Hyman is the head of strategy and innovation for the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine. He's the board president for clinical affairs for the Institute of Functional Medicine. He's the founder and director of the Ultra Wellness Center. That's where I kind of come in. He's very crucial and critical to my current health journey. He's also the host of the leading health podcast, which is the Doctor's Pharmacy. And he's also a best-selling author in New York Times. I'm very envious of this guy. I mean, I've written a few books, but his books are more like the Bible, and this is what helped me in my life. Yeah, his books are Food Fix, um, Food, Eat Fat, Get Thin, the Blood Sugar Solution, 10
Yes,
Day
wow. Yeah.
Diet, and the Blood Sugar Solution. So, guys, please welcome Dr. Hyman to our chat. So
Thank
basically,
you.
I've
Got my
been
latest book, The Peak Diet, came out last week.
yes, and yes, also you're constantly writing books. So I will say that you came to me at a very critical, crucial time in my life. I've been very open and transparent in the last year about my health journey,
Mm.
mostly because I just didn't think. I think at the time I didn't believe that. I mean, everyone has this sort of thing where they're like, oh, well, I could stand to lose a few pounds and all those things, but I didn't realize that I had a real toxic relationship with food. I didn't realize that um, food was like a thing where I was self-soothing all the time.
Mm.
But once you sit back and think about it, it's like when good things happen, hey, let's go celebrate. Like, I'm the guy that loves getting the check. I'm the guy that calls the restaurant to get the private room and take my 28 friends there and all that stuff. But even when, like, it wasn't until you made me aware of, like, okay, when bad things happen, like when I get bad news, then suddenly I have this chip where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, I want a cheesesteak. Or that I didn't realize that how my relationship to food was, and that I was using it as self-soothing instead of as medicine. So, a lot of people have been asking me about my health journey in the last year and a half. Um, I'll say that before I met you, I was a very close to more morbid. I think I was about 417 pounds.
Wow.
Um, and then, once I started my journey, I'm down now to about I think I'm 308 now. There's an additional 100
Mm.
I want to lose to about 220.
Serious 100 pounds there. That's impressive.
Yeah, my goal is to drop about 230 pounds, which, I'm very fortunate, especially now that we're in COVID in which a lot of morbidly obese people are the first to, to leave. I mean, me myself, I have about at least 47 people that I've lost this year alone. And a big part of that common denominator is morbid obesity. So that said, I wrote a couple questions down I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
And so, so there's a quotation, or there's a passage in your book. It says, right now, that we need to utilize the power of food more than ever. And we all know that nutrition is a huge missing component when it comes to global pandemic that we're facing right now. And those with a chronic disease are almost 10 times likely to die from COVID-19.
Yeah.
Those with obesity are 3 times more likely to die. Yeah. And critical for our population to focus on health. And we use food as medicine to bolster health, something I never thought about before, food as medicine. Thereby reducing the overall burden on our healthcare system, which is already buckling under the burden of COVID-19, layered on top of chronic disease, which affects like 6 out of 10 Americans. So I guess my first question to you is, if COVID was like a clear evidence that we need to start change in the way that we think of food. Mm-hmm. So like how can one think of food as medicine? And does that start with, does that start early in schools, or is that the healthcare system? Like, where do we begin to systematically change our thinking around food as medicine?
Yeah, I mean, most people don't really understand what food is. They just think it's energy, fuel. And by the way, thanks for having me on Instagram Live with you, Amir. It's great. But they don't understand that it's actually information that's changing their biology every second with every bite, for good or bad. It's killing them or it's healing them. And right now, we're, like you said, we're in this double pandemic. We have this pandemic of COVID layered on top of the pandemic of obesity and poor metabolic health, which affects about 9 out of 10 people. And when you look at the hospitalizations now, it's been estimated that over 63% of the hospitalizations could be prevented if people were metabolically healthy.
Right.
And if you're overweight, you said you're 3 times more likely to die. Chronic diseases are also caused by poor metabolic health. So heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, high blood pressure, all the things that people are dying at an accelerated rate with COVID are because of this poor metabolic health. And even, which is even interesting, is that blood sugar, even if it's normal, as it starts to go up, is related in a linear way to hospitalizations and death from COVID. So you don't have to be diabetic or even pre-diabetic. You're just on the way, you're in trouble. And the fact is that people of color are far more affected. African Americans have twice as much diabetes as whites, Hispanics 3 times as much, and it's because these populations are disproportionately targeted by the food industry. African American kids see twice as many ads for soda and junk food as white kids. They drink twice as much soda, and people are not really aware of the fact that they are being targeted, or that their health is being compromised because of what they're doing. And so when you kind of can get people to understand that food is not just like something for taste or for calories or energy, but it's actually controlling every one of the systems in your body that creates health or disease. It's pretty miraculous. And I'll just give you a quick example of how powerfully fast food can work. People say, oh, well, I'm 300 pounds, doesn't matter. I'm never going to lose the weight before COVID's over. What the heck? I don't care. The truth is, within a very short time, you can change your metabolic health, even if you're still overweight. So here's the example. When you do gastric bypass, people literally will change their metabolic health within a couple of weeks. So they'll have diabetes. People, when they go in, when they go out a week or 2 later, their diabetes is gone. They're still 400 pounds. It's the food. It's not necessarily the fat. And it's the quality of what happens to the fat when you eat the bad food. It just drives inflammation. So what's happened with COVID is that we're all walking around like sitting ducks, pre-inflamed. Our bodies are on fire because of this belly fat, which is caused by sugar. And when the COVID lands on that, it just activates the immune system and creates this wildfire of inflammation throughout the body, which causes all this organ damage, and it's why we see so much sickness, and it's why we see these populations that are disproportionately affected by these metabolic diseases going down the most. So Native American, Hispanics, I mean, Chicago, I think, and Louisiana, like 30% Black community, and there's 70% of the deaths. You know,
Right.
so that should tell you something about how to think differently about this.
Yeah, I was going to say the person who, weirdly enough, planted the seed in my head um, was, of all people, Magic Johnson had come on the Tonight Show
Mm.
to talk about. This is earlier. I mean, I've been here for 11 years, but this was I think like 2009, 2010, and this is when like he was really expanding his businesses. He, you know, he has Magic Johnson Theater,
Yeah.
Magic Fridays or whatever. And so talking about, I know that there's a Fridays in LA that seems to be like almost like a nightclub. And as a Philadelphian who lived in the Allen Iverson era,
Yeah.
we kind of have a different relationship with the restaurant Fridays because like Iverson would be notoriously late to these games because he was always at Fridays. So during
Oh,
the break, I kind of went up to Magic Johnson, like, really, you came all the way here to New York to announce, like, with great pride that you're opening up a Fridays? And he kind of saw the joke in that, and he says, no, he's like, I got to explain something to you. And what he told me was, he was like, me opening these, I think at the time he put like 30 to 60 Fridays across the
wow.
United States. And he says, I strategically placed. He says, what you don't understand is there's some parts of the hood where you can't get a garden salad or just a salad bar.
Mm-hmm.
And he explained to me that, like, he says, you realize that there's no Whole Foods or any healthy spots in inner cities. And I wanted to place these restaurants and make sure that they emphasize the salad bar and those things. He's like, you got to start basic just to lure people in. That's something I never thought about. And
Yeah.
then it hit me, wow, like just for me right now to maintain the current eating plan I have, like you have to have, a lot of people can get intimidated because it's almost like the cheaper the food, the more unhealthy it is. And the more that you're serious about your health journey, you know, I mean, to pay $6 for a grapefruit at Whole Foods is almost like you have to have 9 jobs in
Yeah.
order to do that. So that he planted that seed in me, and that's why I got interested in kind of the idea of investing in health food spaces. You
Yeah.
know, because in
Yeah.
the past, like I've been approached by like every junk food you can name, like Doritos wants you to do
Yeah.
that sort of thing, and I really wanted to be responsible and sort of lead by that example. And I noticed that even in my own childhood, you would have to go downtown. You would have to travel a half hour out of West Philadelphia just to get something, you
Yeah.
know, healthy. And that's just crazy to me. My so my next question is, well, you kind of went there a little bit. So, you know, just speak more on like low income communities and people of color um, are definitely affected by COVID, definitely more than any other demographic in the country right now. And the fact that you can't get salads in neighborhoods, or let alone have access to diet books or just better eating practices, and not have those resources, you know. As I said, I've been investing in what I call future foods, like part of it is more about the planet, like Impossible Burger, Magic Cereal, like foods that I actively eat, but the healthier versions of those things. Uh, and so for me, it's I think it's just challenging to convince people to eat different and to change not just their diets, but how the way that food affects everything, their physical health, their mental health, um,
Yeah.
and how you get away from, I hate the word diet. I never use the word
Yeah.
diet. So yeah, can you explain more about also, I mean, in terms of, and you in our private conversations, you've made it known about your sort of indifference with some of these companies as far as their relationship with solving uh, the planet crisis, as far as um, keeping it green. So what's your basic opinion on the idea of future foods?
Well, I think we need to sort of rethink our whole approach to food, and whether it's new food products that taste good that people will consume that are substitutes, and that's okay. But I think the bigger issue you touched on a little earlier was that is what is the barrier for communities of color and other communities who are lower socioeconomic status? How can they get access and eat good food? And it turns out that the studies have shown this. It's not more expensive if you eat whole real food. Now, you're not going to get a $70 ribeye grass-fed steak, but there are cheaper cuts of vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds. And there are guides on how to eat well for less. And the mythology of the food companies is it's your fault. You're overweight because you're lazy, you don't exercise, you eat too much junk. Just eat less, exercise more. But those foods are highly addictive, and it's really not as simple as just eating less and exercising more. It's eating the right foods, and the quality foods, like you say, often cost more. But when you actually understand that there are ways to shop and eat at big box stores or online or discount groups or also just buying in bulk. When you look at the data from the 60s, it was pretty interesting. There was 5% obesity rate when I was born. Now it's 42%. But in the 60s, the African American community was much healthier than the white community because they were following their traditions of cooking and making real food, and it was really healthy for them compared to what they're eating now. And now we think it's not necessarily genetic. It's just what's happened is that there's been this cultural shift, and we've been told to eat junk food and fast food as a way to sort of have a fun time or to be how to actually make it simple for ourselves, not having to cook. But I think we need to reclaim our kitchens. And I did a movie with Katie Couric a few years ago, Fed Up, and we went down to South Carolina. It was a white family of five lived in a trailer on food stamps, disability. They never cooked a meal in their life. They lived in one of the worst food deserts in America. Everything was in a box, a package, a can. They were, the father was 42 on dialysis already from diabetes. The mother was 100 pounds plus overweight. The son was like, probably 100 pounds overweight and almost diabetic at 16. And all I did was I showed him how to cook one meal. I bought ingredients from this little guy called Good Food in a Tight Budget. We made turkey chili, a salad, roast sweet potato, stir fry some veggies. Made just olive oil and vinegar dressing, not a store-bought dressing. And what was amazing is that they loved it. It was delicious. So people aren't going to eat stuff that tastes bad. But if you actually make stuff that tastes good, I mean, you've been to my house, you eat the food. It doesn't taste bad. It tastes good. and people it's an education problem. When I sat once with this woman who was a doctor, who was just had the Bedford Stuyvesant Community Health Center, she said, Mark, the number one risk factor for chronic disease and death is education. Is a level of education. People, even if have a lot of money, if they're not educated about food or health, and it's not part of their upbringing, they're often going to be just as unhealthy as if they were poor. And I think, wow, that was really fascinating to me, because I think it is a matter of education. So with future foods and with sort of designing products that are going to help people cross over and create that bridge, I think that's great. And I think there's a lot of investment going on in those communities. I just working with a group called Health Gap Ventures, which is now a venture fund that wants to invest $100 million in businesses that help to address health inequities. So it's kind of addressing the kinds of things you're talking about. So I think this is starting to happen. There's another couple of young African-American Harvard Law School graduates who I was talking to who started another fund that wants to invest similarly to you in some of these sort of transformational spaces of food and ag to get people healthier food. So I think it's the part of the future, but I think more fundamentally, it's like recognizing the problem that the reason these communities are so burdened by obesity and chronic disease and now COVID is because they're targeted in ways deliberately by the food industry that there's levels of internalized food racism, I would call it. And you see sort of the Native American community. I'm like, they go, well, I'm going to have my traditional foods, and I'm like, what are your traditional foods? Like Indian fried bread. Well, that's just white flour fried in Crisco, the government commodity surplus food. It's not their traditional food. And they become sort of stuck in this internalized racist approach to their thinking about food, instead of realizing maybe they need to reclaim their original food ways from their grandparents and their grandparents. And that would transform the health of these communities and America.
I see. So I know that like food insecurity plays a big role in how people eat,
Yeah.
especially that don't have the financial options. It's almost like what you can get and what you can grab.
Yeah.
That will do. So it's almost like, well, I want to know what can be done. What can be done to get better foods into the hands of the people that actually need these foods, and specifically, those communities that you speak of.
There's a lot going on in that. I think, first of all, food stamps, or SNAP benefits are for about 46 million Americans, about 1 in 4 kids. And they're traditionally pretty bad. I mean, you can buy soda with them. You can't buy rotisserie chicken, but you can buy a 2-liter bottle of soda. And so there needs to be serious reform to our food insecurity programs in America that allow us to get people access to better foods and healthier foods and incentivize that. And they've shown that when they incentivize fruits and vegetables, and you get double bucks, for example, on your food stamps, fruits and vegetables, people will buy it. And if you get penalized on the other end for, you get a penalty for buying soda, and maybe it's not worth $1, it's worth 70 cents. Maybe you won't buy the soda. So I think those programs can be helpful. I also think there's really a lot of innovation in communities. For example, in Washington, Bronx, Karen Washington has started farmers markets, urban gardens, community gardens, and as cooking programs. People's Pharmacy in Oakland does similar things and really brings these foods into these communities that really benefit. So there are a lot of models. Ron Finley in LA has started, growing food in a sidewalk. He got fined because it was violating the code or something of the city, and he got changed. But he basically grew, instead of a food desert, he created a food forest.
Right. Oh yeah. Let's shout out Ron Finley. For those of you that are subscribed to Masterclass, I'll say that Ron Finley Masterclass is probably one of the best of the lot. That's specifically why I agreed to do my masterclass. But after seeing Ron Finley's, I was just amazed and really didn't know that much about urban gardening and how you can implement it. And now, he's now where it's just such an overabundance of fruits and vegetables. I do know that during the previous administration, it was so, just the everyday headlines were so corrupted that a lot of the things that are affecting us now got snuck in under. And one of the things that kind of angered me was the fact that they were trying to control what your food stamps could actually access.
Yeah, right.
The foods that were more healthier, I guess, it was deemed that was a luxury product. And, you should only have access to food just to basically survive, like junk food. And I felt that was borderline probably more dangerous and more, it was just an act of racism. And, from my point of view.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, you've been involved in the healthcare reform system, and disease prevention from a public policy standpoint. So, how do you suggest the government get involved in the food as medicine?
Well, it's great. Yes, it's great that you asked that, because right now I'm working, with my campaign called, it's a nonprofit called the Food Fix Campaign, where we're working to really educate lawmakers and advocate for policies that actually implement food as medicine. So, for example, right now I'm working on a project where I'm working with Blue Cross Blue Shield and a Medicare Advantage program to give people free food as a prescription for their diabetes, and watch what happens. And then if it works out, then this could be something that's reimbursed. In other words, if you have diabetes or high blood pressure, or kidney disease, or whatever, heart failure, you can get a prescription for food instead of drugs, and that the government would pay for it. So that's how we start to sort of scale food as medicine in policy throughout Washington. There are medically tailored meal programs now in California, and in Geisinger, which is a big Pennsylvania healthcare system, basically gave food insecure diabetics $2,400 of food a year, taught them how to do it, gave it up for their families, and supported them in a group. And they were able to reduce their healthcare costs by 80%, from $248,000 a person to about 40-something thousand a person. That's insane. I mean, that savings is insane. And they got better, and they got healthier. And so everybody won. And but right now the whole system isn't set up to do that. So that's really what has to happen in the future. We need to sort of focus on the policies that focus on quality food. An African-American guy, David Scott from Georgia, who is now talking about health equity and talking about the issues around, for example, black farmers and other things that can change the landscape. And the new Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services also is an African-American woman who is also focused on food insecurities and some of these issues in these communities. So I think there's hope now that some of these policies will start to roll out. It will really start to change the food landscape, because food is driving so many of our ills, and people understand, in all communities, but particularly in underserved communities, you see increasing levels of poor academic performance, behavioral issues, violence, and developmental issues in kids. And these are all related to food. I mean, we know, for example, if you take juvenile delinquents and you swap out in a closed environment, you swap out the junk food and give them healthy food, that the violent crime goes down by 91%, 100% reduction in suicides in these kids. I mean, that's the third leading cause of death in this age group, right? Teenage boys. That should be like $1 billion drug, right? If it was, but it's just food, so people aren't talking about depression, mental illness. Just life expectancy in these communities is anywhere from 10 to 30 years less. If you, for example, go from like Midtown Manhattan to the Bronx on a subway stop, for every subway stop you go, your life expectancy goes down by 6 months. I mean, it's pretty bad, and that's just because of some of these inequities in food and health that are going on. And I think there's solvable problems. This isn't like we need to sort of come up with a cure for cancer. We know how to fix this.
Indeed, we do. So I just want to let the people know, your book, The Vegan Diet, you have very, very long titles to your books. Like, all your book titles are like paragraphs long. So it's called The Vegan Diet, 21 Practical Principles for Reclaiming Your Health in a Nutritionally Confusing World. And that's currently out right now. Is there an audio version of this book as well?
There's an audio version, and it's really a very short book. It's very digestible. It's like the key things you want to know about: how to eat affordably, how to use food as medicine, how to deal with food and mood, and so many different aspects that people are really looking to figure out. Even climate change, how do you eat to actually reverse climate change, and how do you do it in a way that's sort of economically and equitably done.
Okay. All right. So before I got to do camera blocking in about 15 minutes, but
yeah.
Some of our people have questions here, so I'm going to read them to you. Maybe you can answer. This, again, this guy is one of the best experts on nutrition, so this is a blessing for us to get this this free advice. So someone asked, what does a healthy day look like? What to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and in between? Like in a perfect world, what's a healthy day?
It really, what's beautiful about food is that there's just so much variety out there, and you can do all sorts of things. So there's not like one right way to eat. That's the whole point of the vegan diet. It's not exclusive; it's inclusive, and it just talks about focusing on quality food. So for me, sometimes I'll just have eggs with avocado, maybe slice a tomato, throw some olive oil, salt, and pepper on there. Super simple. Sometimes I'll make a smoothie. I'll make a smoothie with, excuse me, protein powder, or I'll make nuts and seeds or nut butters and throw some frozen fruit in there and make a smoothie. Sometimes in my book, I have a pancake recipe, which is pretty amazing.
Okay.
Called chai pancakes, but it's not made with white flour. It's made with a high protein buckwheat flour, almond flour, which is protein. It has coconut oil, which is good fat. And it also has eggs, so it's got good protein and fat. It won't spike your blood sugar, and it's pancakes. Now, if you pour maple syrup on it, you're going to get in trouble, but you can figure out how to put on there.
Right.
So this is, a wide variety of things. You don't want to eat sugar for breakfast. See, everybody in this country eats sugar for breakfast. Cereal, muffins, bagels, French toast, pancakes. That's all sugar. That's going to kill you. It's going to cause all the metabolic issues and increase your risk of COVID. For lunch, I would say, it could be a variety of stuff. Sometimes I'm lazy. I'll open up a can of wild salmon and just eat that. Or I'll make a salad. Sometimes I make a salad, get some pre-washed sort of lettuce, and then put in some different tomatoes and avocados, throw in some pumpkin seeds, maybe some olives, and maybe I'll get, again, some protein on there, maybe grilled chicken or fish, and throw some olive oil and vinegar, really quick to make. And dinner is pretty simple for me. Like I usually eat like maybe a sweet potato, piece of chicken, fish, or meat, just about the palm size of your hand, and lots of veggies. So last night we made stir-fried greens with ginger. I made stir-fried daikon radishes. I made Okinawa sweet potato, which was really good. And we had special trumpet mushrooms. I had like 4 and a salad. So we had like 5 vegetable dishes. Mm-hmm. And we had 2 scallops and a couple of lamb sausages. That was it. So it's mostly veggies. Nuts and seeds are great. Some grains are okay. But you don't want to be eating starch and sugar. Starch and sugar is the devil. And it's what's driving all the obesity and poor metabolic health. It's making us so at risk for COVID.
I will say that when I first started, the first 5 to 6 months, back when I thought, because again, when you're like 400 plus pounds,
yeah, that's
it's like the more pounds you have on, the more you're kind of in this mind state where it's like, this shit ain't gonna work for me, or like it seemed like an impossible task to do. And I was just like, okay, well, just what's the basic starting point? And I was told, to eliminate sugar.
Yeah.
And so I'll say in the first 5 months, I was at a place where, whatever the carb count was on the product if it was under 14,
yeah, then
I could just take it there. Because, by that point, the carbs that I was eating was definitely high, like 38, 49, that sort of thing. So to go down to the number 13, it was challenging, I'll say, for the first 11 days. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it,
it's addictive, right? Sugar is addictive.
It was drugs. Oh, God, it was drugs. Yeah. And then, like, I'll say by day 11, by, like, week 2, I just felt like a whole new person.
Yeah.
And, as I said, when I dropped those first 50 pounds, I was just like, this is amazing. I never knew such a thing could happen. So for a lot of people, they're just like, what's the starting point? I would say that, if you look at the carb content on the food that you're eating, by the second week, and I know like a lot of sugar-free foods like taste nasty and but get used to it. Now it's to the point where
really, like the thing is, if you eat real food, if you eat a sweet potato, if you eat a blueberry, if you eat things that are naturally whole foods, they taste great. When you get all your taste buds readjusted from getting off the crap, which is basically your taste buds are hijacked by all these chemicals and sugar and incredible addictive compounds in these foods. But you start eating real food, it can taste like candy. If you cut out sugar for a week and you have a bowl of blueberries, it'll taste like candy. Right?
I can attest to that. Yeah. So dropping sugar will make what was normally just suddenly tastes awesome to you. So yeah, in the very beginning, like I really wasn't a fan of blueberries or none of that. And now it's my body's adjusted to it. And I'll say that last year, when I went to Philadelphia to do the Roots picnic, I decided, okay, I did 100. I'll have a cheat week. Bad decision. And for that week I was in Philadelphia, and we have so many iconic foods. So I was like, okay, Monday I'm gonna have a cheesesteak, and then Tuesday I'm like, by day 3, it was such a shock to my system. I was like, no, forget. I'm never doing a cheat week again. Like, that's when I realized, like, the way that affects you, like blood. It not blood, like it was like drugs almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't realize how eating bad foods affected you, especially after like a complete year of.
Yeah. Well, it's actually, I encourage people to do it, because then they go, gee, I didn't know how food was affecting me. Because people don't connect how they feel, their mood, their energy, their brain function, all that with what they're eating. They don't connect the dots. And so when you go clean and then you binge, but your body is going to tell you right away. And that's better than any lecture you could get from a doctor or a book.
Yes, exactly. All right. So one more question. So someone says, how do we save our kids in public schools? They're offering junk food to our kids, not normalizing veggies.
Well, that's a great question. I have a whole section in my previous book, Food Fix, and I even have a whole section in my book, The Vegan Diet, about how to feed your kids better. Schools are a real issue, and I think there's been some incredible models of people and parents who take initiative. Because the beautiful thing about schools is they're local. And they're local representatives, and parents can have a big influence if they work collectively, and they can change what's going on in the schools. So a friend of mine in Boston, inner city schools there, the kids were just doing terribly, huge academic issues, huge behavioral issues, and we're just struggling. And they were getting all this processed food that was shipped in from another state in plastic containers, thrown in the microwave, and that was it. There were no kitchens in any of the schools. So this friend of mine said, look, the schools are so terrible. Why don't we, within the school nutrition guidelines, within the budget that the government allows us for a school lunch per kid, why don't we get chefs to design amazing meals? Why don't we put in actual kitchens into the schools? And why don't we train the kitchen workers, who are basically just deep frying and microwaving stuff now, how to cook a little bit, and let's see what happens. And so they figured out how to do that in Boston City schools. They created something called My Way Cafe. And the food was so delicious that kids weren't throwing it out, they were eating it. Their health improved, their focus improved, their grades improved, their behavior improved. And all it took was a little initiative. And there's a lot of examples around the country. There's a group called Conscious Kitchens that's doing this and teaching and training schools. So there's pockets of this happening. So if you're a parent and you're interested, you can check out my book, Food Fix. There's a section there. But there's a lot of resources around how parents can get involved in the different kinds of initiatives that are happening. There are even things that are already established that you can just plug into that have already been developed. Like Kimball Musk is a friend. He's got Big Green, which is school gardens and nutrition curriculum. So it's happening, but it takes a parent to go, not in my backyard here.
Okay, I see. All right. There's a question I have about. I need a definitive answer about our relationship with water.
Okay.
Now, I grew up thinking that, okay, well, 8 glasses a day. 2 weeks ago, someone told me that I would have to drink half of my weight every day in water. So I'm hearing like too much water is bad for you, but
yeah.
What is the true answer of how much water we should have daily, and what is the benefits of that?
Yeah, so basically we're 70% water, 67% water. Water is critical for all of our bodily functions and hydration. And a lot of us don't drink enough water. We drink a lot of other stuff like soda and sugary drinks and energy drinks and coffees, and those are not really that great for you. In fact, most of them are pretty bad for you. If you drink about a couple of liters of water a day, that's a good amount. So 8 cups of water. That's an easy number to remember. Half your body weight is usually about that in terms of cups, right? Well, not your body weight. If you're 400 pounds, if you're ideal body weight. The thing is, if you drank, half your body weight, then you'd be in trouble because
exactly.
overhydrated. The other thing we need to know is we need the right, not just water, but water electrolytes, because anything will kill you, even water. When you see these marathon runners who just are drinking lots of water without electrolytes, their blood sugar, I mean, their blood sodium goes down so low because they get diluted in their blood that they have seizures and comas and die. So over drinking water is not good for you either, but drinking water with electrolytes is great. A little salt, potassium, magnesium, calcium, these, you can buy little electrolytes and put it in your water. That's a really great way to stay hydrated and make you feel better. And you need about 6 to 8 cups a day of water.
Okay. Someone has a very interesting question about soul food, which, of course, the history of food for African Americans in this country was sort of, the scraps of the food that wasn't consumed in the main house is sort of like we were given the trash and through inventive techniques, like at least made it tasty in our minds. But I will definitely say that, some of soul food is some of the most toxic, or at least in the way that it's been served to us previously, has been very toxic. But how can one turn that level of food consumption around so that it's more healthy without throwing the culture away? Because a lot of us have a relationship, a lot of African Americans and Southern people have a relationship with soul food.
Yeah.
That almost feels like it validates their culture and their heritage. But a big part of my journey was sort of stepping away from those foods that I grew up on.
Well,
And
Philly
then,
cheesesteak isn't a traditional, like Philly cheesesteak it's like traditional,
exactly.
food, but it's so embedded in our culture and our thinking. And I hear what you're saying. The problem is that, like I mentioned with the Hopi chief I was talking about earlier, he said, well, I said, he was diabetic, he was throwing up, he was just having so much trouble on this rafting trip we're taking and to sort of protect these rivers in Utah. And I said, you can fix this. He said, what do I have to do? I said, well, I said, you should stop sugar and all that starch you're eating. It's killing you, and you'll feel better, and your diabetes will get better. He said, well, how are we going to do our traditional Hopi ceremonies? I'm like, what ceremony? We need our traditional Hopi foods. I said, what foods? He says, well, cake and cookies and pie. And I'm like, those weren't your Hopi foods. And that's the thing. Like, when you're talking about this, if you go back, Leah Penniman is an incredible woman. She's an African-American woman who's a farmer in upstate New York. She wrote a book called Farming While Black. And she has a farm called Soul Fire Farm, where she's reclaiming a lot of the traditional African-American food traditions, which were brought over from Africa, and which were actually eating real food and the ways they prepare them and the ways they cook them, and even farming. Most of the farmers obviously were black, and then now there are almost none that are black, and it's been because of the disenfranchisement from the land, sort of a consequence of Reconstruction when Lincoln promised 14 acres and a mule, or 40 acres and a mule, and that didn't happen. And that would have been worth $14 trillion right now in land value.
Right.
What's going on? But I think there's a way to swap out and learn better ways of making the same thing. So there are healthier soul food options. There are healthier options that you can actually make. So for example, in my book, The Vegan Diet, like there's pancake recipes, there's snickerdoodle recipes, there's fudge brownie recipes, right? But it just upgrades the ingredients and changes the quality of the food. Because like we said at the beginning, if food is medicine, it matters what the ingredients are, right? If it's made from almond flour instead of white flour, if it's, if it's actually not using white sugar, but it's maybe using fruit sweeteners like dates or something. So there's ways of upgrading everything and making it taste yummy without having to be deprived. So, and I think there are various cookbooks out there on sort of healthier soul food stuff. And I think it's, so when you start to think about, how much of this is really the white man's food that's been pushed on us. And I think that's the wake up call that needs to happen from my perspective. And I don't know who I am to say, but it just seems to me that if there was a wake up that most of the foods that be consumed in these communities now, in Hispanic and Native American and African American communities, are highly processed industrial food that are targeted to these communities with heavy duty marketing, and they're not their traditional foods, And you can see it. You see when you, like I said before, if you go back 50 years, the African American community was thin and healthy and didn't have the same rates of diabetes and heart disease and amputations. Now, you're 3 times likely to get, amputations, 4.5 times more likely to get kidney failure if you're black, twice as likely to have diabetes. It's terrible. And I think these are things that we can identify where they came from and start to sort of reclaim more traditional foods, and also swap out the foods that we're eating for kind of like sort of the Impossible Burger is sort of an example of an attempt to do that. And we can talk about whether that's good or bad, but I think the idea is that there's swaps and ways to do it that make, you can still have your pancakes.
All right. So someone asked, what is your opinion on monk fruit? Is that a good sugar substitute?
Yes. So there's a lot of weird sugar substitutes. What I would first say, when people start negotiating about sugar substitutes, it means they're addicted. So just take a note of that in your mind. If you're starting to say, well, can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? It means your mind is trying to find a way around not having sugar. And that's just a piece of information for you to digest and go, wait a minute, maybe I really have a bad relationship.
I'm guilty of this too. Trust me.
So that aside, monk fruit is among the best of all the sweeteners. So there's all the junk sweeteners like aspartame and Splenda and all that stuff. You want to stay away from that. All the sugar alcohols can be problematic. Stevia can be okay sometimes for people, but I think monk fruit is probably the best natural sweetener that's a non-caloric sweetener.
Yeah, one of the companies I invested in, Magic Cereal. Well, I know you said earlier that don't start your day off with sugar. There was a point about a year into this where I was like really craving. I mean, I've made my love and addiction to Captain Crunch known on about a decade plus now, and this company called Magic Spoon had me about trying them out, and I did it, and that it was the closest to satisfying. It's made with monk fruit, and it was the closest to satisfying my sugar Jones that I was missing, or my cereal Jones, if you will. So yeah, I wanted to shout that out. Someone asked, they said that they're pregnant and would like to know what's the one food that's best to eat every day if you're pregnant?
The one food that's best to eat every day. Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, I think what I would say is, as a category, colorful fruits and vegetables. If you could eat 8 to 10 cups of colorful fruits and vegetables, that's pretty key because of all the medicine in the food. And I also say make sure you eat foods with lots of omega-3 fats because that's good for the kids' brains. So small fatty fish like herring, sardines, anchovies, mackerel, salmon, not people's favorites, but those are the most nutrient dense with omega-3s and protein. So those are good too.
Okay. So someone asked about wild grains for starch, brown rice, quinoa. What do you recommend in that?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm not against grains, and in the vegan diet talk about that. The problem with I'm not. The problem
baby.
Depends for who. It depends for who, right? If you're starting at 400 pounds, they're not good. But if you're down to a normal weight, then you can tolerate them. And the reason is that they are starch still. But if you look at how most grains are eaten in this country, it says white flour. It's highly pulverized, which is worse than sugar. So if you're eating white bread or sugar, actually the sugar is better for you, believe it or not, than the white bread in terms of how it affects your blood sugar. That aside, if people want to eat some grains, there's grains that are great, like buckwheat, quinoa, black rice, wild rice. Those are fine. And some of these aren't even grains, like buckwheat and wild rice are not even grains. And you want to eat not a huge amount of them, but like, a half a cup, a small amount with meal. That's okay. So I think people can have grains and tolerate them if they're metabolically resilient. But what happens is if you are a diabetic, even brown rice is going to spike your blood sugar.
Okay. Someone asked, are you going on time? They didn't call me yet, so I'm just going to ask as many questions.
Okay. All right.
They called me. So someone asked, is coconut oil? Well, they said coconut oil is so controversial.
Yes.
Where can we get good science on its benefits?
Yeah, good question. So I read a lot about it. So coconut oil is like what happens. Everybody gets on a new trend. Coconut oil is the best thing, and everybody's like eating tons of coconut oil. If you ate 4,000 pounds of broccoli, it wouldn't be good for you either, right? So you want to understand this. This can't be part of your diet. It shouldn't be a staple. It does have a high amount of saturated fat, which for some people can be a problem. Some people not. So it really is very individual on how people respond. Some people, I put people on tons of coconut oil and their cholesterol drops like a stone. Other people, it gets a lot worse. So it really depends on the individual. But I do think that people can include coconut oil and for high temperature cooking or for different recipes. That's fine, but it shouldn't be just downing it every day, tablespoons and tablespoons.
Okay. What is your recommended milk substitute? I know now I've just graduated to oat milk.
Yeah.
I started off with rice milk and almond milk. Now I'm told that hemp and oat milk is the best. But in your opinion, what's the best milk substitute?
I mean, you want to be careful because a lot of them are sweetened. A lot of them have weird gums and gels in them. So they're not all created equal. And they can seem like they're sold in the health food store. They should be healthy, but they're not. And so there's just as much sugar in Whole Foods as there is in a lot of other places that you think they're a problem. I personally like the macadamia milk, but I think, oat milk, if you're not gluten sensitive, can be good.
Okay.
Milk can be great. Rice milk is a little sweet for people. Almond milk can be great. And there's different brands that are better or worse. But you want to make sure you're not getting a ton of sugar when you get those. And I don't think we should be just guzzling them like we're drinking them all day like a glass of milk. I think we should be, use them in a smoothie once in a while if you want to put it in your coffee, whatever, that's fine. Use it in a recipe, but I think we shouldn't be drinking, lots of gallons of that stuff anyway.
Okay. So someone asked how do they deal with eating healthy if they have allergy issues with there's someone that has a fish and a nut problem. So how do you?
Yeah, that's a challenge. So, if it's a true allergy, like a peanut allergy, you got to stay away from it. And there's no way around it. So the beautiful thing is, I'm in Hawaii here right now, and I've probably eaten 30 foods that I never even knew existed. Like we eat 3 crops is the majority of our diet, right? Wheat, corn, and soy, and it's 60% of our diet, and another 9 crops make up the other 90% of our diet. So we eat a pretty boring diet, and there's so many incredible foods out there on the planet that we can get and try and enjoy. So it's good to sort of branch out, experiment. And if people don't know how to cook, my mother always said, if you can read, you can cook, right? If you can read a recipe and you follow the directions, you can cook. So, try different things. Try Indian food, try different flavors, different spices, different cultures. And you can, leave out fish, you can leave out nuts, it's fine. There's lots of ways around it.
Okay. So you and I have had many a discussion about alternative proteins.
Yes. I'm going there.
Look, I'm a baby in this, and the way that I see it was one I'm trying to save myself, but I think that as a 50-year-old, I'm now in that space where I'm trying to leave the world better than when I found it, and for me, the very beginning of that is trying to invest the food and amplify healthier alternatives. Now, the very first company I ever invested in, I was one of the very first people to invest in Impossible Burgers, simply because they challenged me one night. Like, these guys were like, hey, we found, a completely alternative to the burger that you're missing. I took the challenge and I was like, whoa, everyone was amazed at the novelty or the idea of Impossible Burger 4 years ago. So when we first started our friendship and I mentioned this to you, you were very honest in your, you kind of had a scowl on your face, and I was like, oh God, am I about to leave the hell? So what is your general take on alternative proteins? Because a lot of it, Impossible and Beyond Burger and all these other companies.
Yeah, man, I think we need a multitude of solutions to solve the food problem. And I think we need to upgrade our ability to create healthy plant-based proteins 100%. And I think there's a lot of innovation in the food and ag tech space to do this, whether it's Impossible Burger, Beyond Meat, whether it's companies like the one creating stem cell-based meats. Those are innovations that are getting a ton of attention, ton of investment. And I think there's going to be iterations as we learn more and more how to do this. The problem with some of these is they overpromise and underdeliver. So I think, you know, my view is we should be eating real food, right? And as a bridge between what people are doing and where they're going, if you want to include, you know, like soy hot dogs, okay. But I think our soy burgers and those are fine. But we should still try to focus most of our diet. And as a fun thing to eat once in a while, I don't think it's an issue. But to say it's going to solve all our problems, I think is a little overreach. And I think we should be focusing on teaching people to eat real food, and we should change our agricultural system to grow better food. We should have it more equitably distributed, and we should be able to actually have people be able to afford it. So I think that those are really the bigger issues. Having you know, nice treats and alternatives is great. I'm like I said, I have a pancake recipe. I'm not against pancakes. I'm not against burgers. I'm not against plant-based burgers. I think we just need to understand what they are and what they're not. And I think some of the challenges, you know, as those companies scale, is they're going to run into the same problems as industrial agriculture, right? If you're growing soybeans for an Impossible Burger and you're doing it in a way that's destructive to the climate because you're using traditional tillage in agriculture, you're spraying with glyphosate, you're killing the microbiome of the soil, you know, you're having all these ongoing problems that aren't really solved. So I think we need to think, you know, the whole life cycle of food that we're eating. We need to think about how it affects everything that matters. And it's not easy to do, but I think we're on these transitional bridges of food innovation, and we're just going to see more and more.
Okay, well, can you add to that? There's some people that are asking about.
Oh, Lynn's life. Hi, my friend Lynn. She just commented.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you guys, Lynn, can you give another comment so people see you? One of the most pleasant surprises I've had was discovering Lynn's Life breads.
Yeah.
during this period, giving up bread, giving up cupcakes, giving up crackers, anything to do with the bread family, I thought it was going out my mind. And I was fortunate enough to discover. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to discover. Okay, this is gonna be real weird. I'm gonna start taking my hair out now, but I'm gonna still talk to you. With Lynn's products, she created. Well, how do you best explain what her products are?
Well, you know, so everybody loves bread, right? Bread is so good, and it's a staple alive. So how do you create stuff that tastes good, that's not going to kill you? So what Lynn did was she had a gluten issue, so she figured out how to make bread from seeds, and like flax seeds and psyllium husks and chia seeds and all kinds of different seeds, and then you mix it with egg whites and some oil and water, and you bake it, and it's so good. It's like comes in little packets of pre-mixed, so it doesn't take a lot of work, and you can make bagels and crackers and bread, and it's pretty yummy.
Well, we're kind of underselling it. Lynn's cornbread and her cinnamon muffins and cinnamon. It's like, again, you know, occasionally you have a Jones for regular foods.
Yeah.
And if you have to do that break in case of emergency thing, that's what I recommend. So yeah, if you guys see Lynn's Life in this chat, I highly recommend. And I'm also going to put this chat on my food account, Questlove's Food, so that you guys can see it again. But we were on protein. What is your opinion on tofu and how much it should be consumed? Because
yeah, so I think, you know, most of the soy in America is soybean oil and industrial soy products and soy proteins. Those aren't that healthy, but traditional soy foods that are non-GMO, that have been used for thousands of years, like tofu, tempeh, miso, natto, soy sauce, these are all things that are been consumed forever, and they're fine to eat. Of course, you don't want to be eating 10 pounds of tofu a day, like anything else, right? But it's definitely part of a healthy diet, for sure. But it's important that it's non-GMO because of the glyphosate and the other issues around soy. So I think that's important.
Okay. People were asking about egg substitutes. Company, another one of those companies I've discovered and invested in, a company called Just, and they to me are probably one of the, again, I go with taste first
Yeah.
before. So the company, JUST, they're an egg substitute, that I recommend. All right, so I'm gonna do just 3 more questions, and then I'm gonna have to get my hair washed. I could go back there and start washing my hair. Okay, yeah, someone's asking this question, but I have a question too. Someone asked about a substitute for bubbles. There are people that are addicted to soda. I, for one, have consumed many a Spindrift, or
Yeah.
Those types of waters. Are they beneficial, or is it just
Oh,
a
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can make your own, right? You can get one of those carbonated machines. You can make your own soda water. You can put in a little bit of fruit juice in it, and it's just amazing. I love that. But the canned ones like Spindrift you're talking about have something that have a little bit of fruit juice sweetener. There's a lot of different brands out there that are very low sugar. They're really tasty. They use herbs, and they use different flavors that make it really yummy. So I think there's a lot of brands we could probably post about after, but I think that there's a lot of alternatives that people get the sugar out of their diet. I mean, if it has a couple of grams of sugar, it's probably fine. But when you get stuff that's just got like 39 grams of sugar, which is basically 9 to 10 teaspoons, so people don't really understand. Say, oh, nobody knows what a gram of sugar is, but if you say, oh, there's 10 teaspoons of sugar in this soda, this can of soda, they go, oh God, that's a lot of sugar, right? But
Mhm.
but people just don't get that. So I think some of these other alternatives that are bubbly, that are sparkly, or make your own, I would say.
Someone asked, what daily vitamins do you recommend?
Well,
Uh,
this is very important.
Problem asked if they could just take omega-3 to substitute not eating fish.
Yeah, well, for every American, I mean, I think it's imperative to take vitamin D right now during COVID. We know that if you're low in vitamin D, you're 80% more likely to get in the hospital and die. And if your vitamin D levels are good, you're 94% less likely to end up in the ICU and die, which is as good a result as getting a vaccine for pennies a day with no side effects. And I think 80% of Americans are deficient. And if you're African American and have dark skin, you're going to even be more at risk of deficiency. And it's really important more than ever for people to take vitamin D. I just want to emphasize that. And then a good multivitamin that contains zinc and other things is good, and fish oil. So those 3 things, a multi, fish oil, and vitamin D, which is you can probably do for literally pennies a day. I think is really good insurance for people.
Okay. I keep seeing a question about celery juice. Is there? Yep.
Celery juice is fat. Everybody's got its coconut oil. Celery juice. I mean, it's fine. Celery juice is fine. It act as a diuretic, which means it helps flush out stuff from your body and makes you pee, which is fine. But I don't think it's going to cure cancer.
Oh, okay, fine. Doc, I can do this all day. I really appreciate it. I hope that everyone on our feed realizes and recognizes that this is major to get this advice from you, and that they should get your book, The Pegan Diet. Also follow you. For those that don't know, I put your name at the bottom.
Thank you.
Someone said I'm not rich, so you're not going to let me talk. Come on now. I'm trying to get the information here, the wealth here. Yeah, again, thank you very much. Once again, if you guys follow Questlove's Food, this particular video will be up. I have various accounts. So on my food account as well. How are you doing out in Hawaii right now? You're relaxing?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I'm exercising, eating healthy. The farmers markets here are great. The food's great. And working and playing. It's good.
Good. Yeah. Did you hook up with Chef Gordon, or have you guys met yet?
Not yet. No, it's everything. COVID's a people locked down, a little shy, but I definitely want to connect with him.
Absolutely, I recommend it. All right. Well, Doc, I thank you very much for doing this. We got to do this again.
Okay, man. Anytime. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Check out the book, Vegan Diet.
Yes.